Vayigash elav Yehido, Vayomer bi Adoini. This week's parsha, Yehuda approaches Yosef and they get into an argument, into a confrontation. Yehuda and Yosef are the two Shvatim that created a lineage of kingdom. And this argument between Yehuda and Yosef that we see flaring up in this week's parsha continued for thousands of years until this very day. Yehuda and Yosef still haven't made up. They still haven't become friends. This will only happen when Mashiach ben Yosef will realize the need for Mashiach ben David, and then finally, V'hoya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz, v'yoyim hahu yeh Hashem echad ishmo echad. So we want to try and understand, what does it mean to us that these two Shvatim are in conflict? How should we understand this conflict? And so we know from the Svarim that the 12 Shvatim represent the 12 Mazalas. The 12 Mazalas represent 12 different organs, 12 body parts. And these 12 body parts are the Bnei Yisrael, Yisrael being the consciousness that resides within each one of us. This is why we are called Yisrael. And so consciousness resides within the organs, and the organs control how we're going to perceive reality. Yehuda represents the heart. The heart represents speech. Dvarim hayotzim min halev, nechnosim min halev. Real speech, human speech, comes from the heart. Speech that comes from the brain is not human speech. Speech that comes from the brain is from a person that doesn't yet qualify to be called human, because he doesn't yet have access to his heart. What makes us human is our heart, is our sensitivity, is our understanding of the importance of what is taking place. Without that, we're just a concept, we're just an idea talking. But it's not human, it's not real, it's not authentic. And so, Yehuda, he's the king. Just like the heart is the king. Like the Sefer Yetzira says. Lev benefesh, the heart within consciousness, kemelech b'milchama, is like a king at war. Who is he fighting? He's fighting all the different messages coming from within the organs, and he's trying to find peace between all the different forces that are pulling him in different directions. And so in this war, as the organs are fighting, we can lose access to our heart. And so, the Shvatim, as they sold Yosef, as Yaakov Avinu realized that the Shvatim are not together, the organs are not trying to create unity, they're not trying to create a single reality together. He knew that Klal Yisrael's destiny is going to be faulty, is going to have problems. Because the only way we can ever find peace is when all of us, all the different parts of us, are working together to create one reality. As soon as different parts of us want different things, the heart cannot find peace. Yosef, representing the Midas HaYesod, he represents perfection. He represents the necessity that we know how to be and we understand the consequences of what we're doing. And why is it Dafka Yosef? Why is it the Midas HaYesod that represents that? That is because all of us came into this world through the Midas HaYesod. And based on how well our parents knew how to use that Yesod, based on how clean they were within their minds and within their hearts, our experience is defined. The base of our experience is the beginning of where we started as we came into this world. And therefore the Midas HaYesod demands of us that we need to work on ourselves in order to be perfect. If we're not perfect, then what we're leaving behind is not perfect. And those consequences are extreme. They're very meaningful. They're very important. It's the future of the world. It's life itself. Like the Pasuk says, Tamshileu b'maseh yodecha, you made man in charge of the working of your hand. Koil shato tachas raglov, you placed everything under his feet. And we know that the word koil represents the Yesod. Everything that exists came into the world through the Midas HaYesod. And so the Midas HaYesod is extremely demanding of us. And this is why Yosef comes out from Rochel, and the Pasuk says Rochel is Yefas Toyar v'Yefas Mara, she had external perfection. And the Sfarim say obviously the Torah is not talking simply about her looks. The Torah is talking about her behavior. The Torah is talking about her perception of reality. The Torah is talking about a person that didn't have faults, like we see how she behaved in order not to embarrass her sister. And so Yosef and Binyamin, they're both called tzaddikim. Yosef HaTzadik, a man of perfection. However, this drive for perfection can take a big toll on our hearts. Our heart is safely planted in reality. And as we try to drag ourselves elsewhere, it puts wear and tear on our hearts. It makes our hearts feel uncomfortable. And this is why the biggest war that the heart has is with the Midas HaYesod. This defines a person's experience. The war happening within. On one hand, a search for perfection, and on the other hand, a need to be content with what is, so that the heart can find peace. And so we see Yosef HaTzadik brings dibosam ro el aviyam. He brings bad words. He brings bad concepts, bad ideas into the mind, into the consciousness. And he's complaining about the level of perfection attained between the organs, attained by the Bnei Yaakov. And so we see Shlomo HaMelech, when he married the Bas Paroi, Yerovam ben Nevat, who was from Shevet Ephraim, Shevet Yosef, he comes and he challenges him, saying, Shlomo HaMelech, you're not perfect enough. And then a generation later, he becomes king, competing with Rehoboam ben Shlomo, splitting the kingdom into two. And this is a war between Yehuda and Yosef. Where do we need to put our emphasis? Do we need to emphasize being perfect? Or do we need to emphasize finding peace within our hearts? And this war is a theme throughout our history, throughout the Torah, throughout all the different Mamorei Chazal. Every Maimer in Chazal has a source, has a midah, has an organ that it's representing. This is why Chazal teach us, when a person says something in the name of who is saying it, it brings redemption to the world. Because in order to find redemption, it is necessary to understand each thing that it said, who is saying it, and what are they trying to accomplish? Why is what they're saying good? What's the purpose of what they're saying? And this is why we know that when Klal Yisrael went through the Yam Suf was split into 12 different channels, 12 different lanes. Each Shevet had their own lane. And Kriyas Yam Suf, as brought in the Zohar, represents a person being able to swim through the sea of information called the Torah. And so within the understanding of the Torah is 12 different lanes, 12 different perspectives being represented, 12 different realities that are coexisting. And why is the Torah built in that way? Because that's you. You are 12 different perspectives. You are looking at the world from many different angles. And this is because our consciousness is built on biological organs. These organs, they create our emotions. They react to our thoughts. They react to reality. And so, to every reality, we have 12 different reactions, each organ reacting in its own way. Sometimes one organ is extremely pleased with what's happening, while the other organ is yelling and screaming. Sometimes none of them are happy. But the key to evolve, the key to becoming you, is to find the common ground between all 12, so that the heart can find peace. And this is why ultimately we're going to leave Galus through Mashiach ben David. We're going to leave Galus by listening to our hearts. And so when Yeravam ben Nevat from Shevet Yosef took away a portion of the kingdom from Rechavam ben Shloima, from Shevet Yehuda, this was the beginning of exile. This made exile inevitable. Because as soon as we give power to that part in us that claims that we can find perfection without peace in our hearts, we have no other direction where we're going to go other than into exile. Exile, by definition, is a place where we go to become more perfect, not to find peace. This was also represented in the machlokes between Beis Shammai and the Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai are looking to make us perfect. The Beis Hillel are looking to give peace to our hearts. And this is why we paskin like the Beis Hillel, for the most part. And so, Vayigash Elav Yehuda, in this parsha, Yosef is in charge. Yosef is Melech. Yehuda, Vayered Yehuda Me'achov. We had a couple of parshas ago. Yehuda has been demoted. He's no longer king. And so at some point, Yehuda comes to Yosef and he says, Bi Adoni, who are you working for, Yosef? Aren't you part of me? Aren't you getting blood from the heart? Aren't we all one? Bi Adoni, you're in me. You work for me. And when Yosef heard that, V'lo yochel Yosef li'isapek, he couldn't hold himself back any longer. He realized that he belongs to his brothers. He can't pretend to be someone else. The whole Golus Mitzrayim played out in a way where Yosef went into Mitzrayim first. Mitzrayim represents the world of imagination, the world where we separate from reality and we start looking at different obstacles, at different ideas, different concepts as if they're real. And then we're stuck in Mitzrayim, then we don't have access to ourselves any longer. Then we can't be who HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us to be. And so all the Shvatim, including Yaakov, comes to Mitzrayim because of Yosef. However, it is Yosef that feeds them in Mitzrayim. It's Yosef that takes care of them to make sure that they don't get completely lost. But ultimately, Yehuda comes to Yosef and he says to him, Yosef, it's time for you to recognize who you are. It's time for you to recognize where you belong. It's time for you to recognize that we are one unit. We can't separate from each other. And in fact, the only way for us to find true perfection is through finding peace. It's through allowing the heart to give the life force to the organs so that they can be at their best. As soon as the heart is not in charge, we get broken, we get lost. Not only don't we become better, but we lose our moral compass. We lose our understanding of what's right and what's real. And then the things that we say, the things that we do, the things that we think are just coming from the brain. There's no heart. There's no truth. There's no reality. And so our avodah, in order to get closer to the Geula, is to figure out how to bring peace to Jewish hearts. Because ultimately the Pasuk says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Liban Shel Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the heart of Klal Yisrael. And this is why Yehuda has the whole Shem Havaya in his name. Except they added the Daled. What is the Daled? The Daled means that he's Dal ve'evyon, he's poor, he's empty. He's always waiting for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to shine the light of reality within the heart, so that the heart can find peace, so that the heart can save itself from all the illusions, from all the darkness that were created as it was trying to create more perfection, as it was trying to become better. With the best of intentions, the heart had been forgotten, the heart had been broken. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us the wisdom, the kindness, that we should be able to fix our hearts. We should be able to connect to our hearts. We should be able to wake up that Malchus, Beis David, within us. And through that we'll be Zocheh to the Geula Shlema of Meher B'Yameinu.